John will be on studio on Monday here on the Bash. We'll talk NFL all day.
60 days.
Monday. All right, John, let's bring John McMullen from 97.3 ESPN.com in, today's pigskin.com. And, John, you look at this Brady thing. It's been, 2 years in the making now, and they finally got him, right? Is this it? They got him?
No, this is not it. Come on, Mike. He's still got the Supreme Court to go. And when you say Tom
but
Brady's
that's not going to be before the year, right?
Correct. They're not going to hear the case before the start of the year, but they could put a stay in place before the start of the year.
Oh, boy.
And if they put a stay in place, Tom Brady plays this season, and it's probably not taken up till next year. So there is a very, very good chance that Tom Brady is active for the first 4 weeks of the season because the judge in charge of Second Circuit cases that go to the Supreme Court is Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And for people who aren't familiar with the makeup of the court, she is one of the more liberal justices on the court. She will generally side with labor more often than not. And that's what you have in this case. Tom Brady is labor. And he's against the NFL and the $13 billion entity. Not to say that that's going to happen, but if you look at Ginsburg's resume, there's a very good chance of it.
So there's a chance he does play on Thursday night is what you're saying?
Correct. There's a very good chance that a stay will be put in place while the Supreme Court decides whether they will hear it. And from that point, by the way, they could turn it down and say, you know what, we're not going to listen to the case. We're not going to have hearings. And then the suspension is put back in place. But again, that would push it back to 2017, not 2016.
Wow, you just ruined my day, man.
Which would be good for Tom Brady, right? The longer this draw plays out?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's going to play, whether it's 2016, 2017. I think he ultimately loses, and he ultimately serves the suspension. So it's just a matter of when. But again, that's just opinion. He has promised to fight this to the Supreme Court every way he can. He's going to do that. The Players Association hired Ted Olson, who's a former U.S. Solicitor General. Nobody has more experience in front of the Supreme Court than him. So this was in the tea leaves for a while. The fact that it comes from the Second Circuit is just very, at least on the surface, a very desirous place to come from for Brady because Ginsburg is the one in charge of those particular cases. So as far as the stay, it looks positive. And that means it looks positive that he'll be there for the first 4 weeks of 2016. Ultimately, that doesn't mean much as far as how the court decides eventually. And in that instance, I think it goes against Brady.
Well, so like the Supreme Court thing, they wouldn't hear that case for, weeks or even months from now. Who would be the person that would decide to put a stay on this that could say, all right, you can play until the Supreme Court decides to listen to your case? Who steps in then?
It is totally up to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She is the only one who can make the decision. She can put a stay in place, or she can say, no, we're going to let this go. We're not going to hear it, and say, Tom Brady, you're going to be suspended for four games to start this season. So ultimately all we're doing is looking at the history of a particular judge and looking at what she has done in the past. And what she has done in the past is she has been very kind to labor in federal employment law cases and that. And that's what this is. People have to understand this is no longer about deflated football.
Not at all, right? I mean, this has nothing to do with what happened, right?
Nothing to do with what happened. Basically, what the court is deciding is whether or not Roger Goodell overreached from his powers in the collective bargaining agreement. So right now, it's a federal labor law case. And that, from that standpoint, as I said, Ginsburg is very liberal, generally and is usually going to side on labor's side of the aspect of the case. All that does, though, is extend it, as I said. That likely puts in the case a stay. That likely means he plays the first 4 games of this season. The court then makes its decision whether they actually hear it or they actually turn it down. At that point, if they keep the current ruling in place, Tom Brady will be suspended for 4 games, but not until 2017.
And I think Ruth Bader Ginsburg is a very progressive judge, and I think she probably will hear the case. And I think obviously if it's a stay, he'll play until that's determined, and that'll be good for Tom Brady, because
and that's what people look at, Billy, is her history. And again, this is just what it would be is not ruling in favor of Tom Brady. It would just be saying, we're putting it off until we make the decision on the case. In other words, you can't implement the suspension until the case is complete. So all she would be doing is, as what it's called in legal terms as a stay, is leaving the status quo in place until the ultimate decision is rendered. And that, all history, all precedent is on the side of the NFL, because courts, even the Supreme Court, even liberal justices, they're loath to overturn collectively bargained agreements, not because of the NFL, because that opens a Pandora's box with many, many other cases that have nothing to do with football. And I don't think the court wants that headache.
Should Brady just accept this and end it?
Yes and no. He should accept the suspension, but the NFL, on the other hand, should say, this is ridiculous also, and say, let's come to a conclusion with this and say, how about 2 games? There's got to be a little wiggle room on both sides, and neither has shown any inclination to do that. So while I do believe he should accept his punishment at some point, I also believe the league should have said, look, Tom, let's put this behind us. This is an embarrassment. Let's say 2 games. Let's call it a day.
Well, what about the role of Goodell then? Can't he just step in and say, you know what, this has gone far enough. Look, let's just end this.
He just comes across to me as being really headstrong in this. It's like, I'm going to win at all costs.
Yeah,
and it's going to me.
Sure, and that's the problem. There's no doubt. Roger Goodell could do it tomorrow. There's no question. He could not only say. He would have to go to Tom Brady and say, let's knock it down to 2 games. Then Brady would have to accept it. He could knock out the suspension completely and put this behind him. Remember, the Patriots have already had significant penalties. Losing a first-round pick is big as far as the NFL goes. So they've had significant penalties to this incident long past Tom Brady. So certainly a lot of it is Roger Goodell. And there's no question he's headstrong, and it's about precedent for the NFL. They don't want to give up the power that they have in these types of instances. And the problem from the player's perspective, and I'm going to write about this tomorrow at today's Pigskin, if you think about it, guys, come September 11th, when Week 1 is here, there'll be 1,700 people on this planet that can, put NFL player on their tax form. And of those 1,700, despite the narrative, very, very few of them get in trouble, and even fewer are in cases where Goodell could arguably be overreaching. And if we put the number arbitrarily at 10, that's basically 0.6%. So what you're arguing for, if you're DeMaurice Smith, is people to die on a hill. 99% of the people in this league, it doesn't concern them. So the players can't get anything done in collective bargaining, and that's why they're trying to get it done in the federal courts. Ultimately, it never works for them.
Couple, by the way, this text message on the Dewbelt Lumber text board says, let's hope she's a Dolphins fan. That wouldn't work.
I don't even think she knows what football is.
Yeah, that's what I said. She's from New York. So I already had New York fans tweeting me and saying, she's going to be for Tom Brady, she's going to be against. It doesn't. I'm pretty sure, not 100%, pretty sure Ruth Bader Ginsburg doesn't care about football, but you never know.
She can't even stay awake during the president's address.
Was that her?
Yeah, she was sleeping in the front row.
A couple NFL news and notes real fast with John. John, will Ryan Fitzpatrick be at training camp for somebody?
Well, I would think he'd be at training camp for the Jets, because if the Jets want to have a decent season, they need him playing quarterback. They can't go into this season with Geno Smith starting or Christian Hackenberg. It's just not going to work. So ultimately, I think something will get done. But if nothing gets done with the Jets, then I think it becomes a waiting game for Fitzpatrick.
So not one other team has interest in this guy, right? Nobody.
No, nobody to this point. But that'll change the minute an injury pops up or something of that nature. The first name on every Rolodex to be called in that type of situation would be Patrick. So I think at that point it becomes an issue where he would play the waiting game and sort of wait for the injury and the opening in another city.
LaShawn McCoy, no trouble there. So that's over, done, nothing there, right?
Yeah, nothing there. And that's, interesting in a weird way for Eagles fans. That might have a little impact on the upcoming Nelson Aguilar decision, because if you think about some of the criticism Seth Williams got for passing on sort of bringing charges against LaShawn McCoy, you never know. That might have an impact on him, and he might go in a different direction, say he's going to be tough on an NFL player or something of that nature. So in a weird way, that could still have an effect on the Eagles this season.
Hey, John, can you shed any more light on the case? Aguilar, has anything more substantial come out about the case? Have you heard any scuttlebutt? Haven't really heard too much about it lately in the news.
It's in the DA's hand, and it has been for a couple weeks. So basically, it's up to Seth Williams at this point to make a decision whether he's going to press charges or not. I can tell you from everything that I've gotten from sources behind the scenes, it doesn't look like a very strong case. Whether ultimately, again, politics can come into it. Seth got a lot of criticism for how he handled the Shady McCoy case. So that could enter into it. But some of the circumstances in this case would lead me to believe a prosecutor is not going to go forward simply because I don't think they could win the case.
And, of course, Aguilar was out in San Diego with the rest of the guys. I guess maybe if he knew something was coming down the pike, Mike, he might maybe talk
I think he'd probably still be, it's a team bonding, much like you were at the trial at the Isle yesterday. Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. By the way, John will be in studio on Monday. We'll do 4 hours NFL. I'll go around the league, a lot of Eagles, a lot of NFL, NFC East. So I'll be here on Monday, which will make this guy on the text board very unhappy. He wants me to go on vacation.
What, do you get ripped, Mike?
It's a part of the day there, Billy. It's funny. But, yeah, I was actually going to take off Monday, and then I forgot that John and I are going to do the NFL show, so I'll be here Monday. And just to make this guy happy, I'll probably be off a couple days next week. But I'm just letting him know now, although he seems to be listening every day, he can listen to those days because I won't be here for a couple of days.
And by the way, John and Mike, last week on the beach, I got a chance to hang out with Rich Gannon was in town and spoke.
There you go.
There's a blue hen.
Yeah, he was a blue hen, and he hangs obviously on the beach in Ocean City, and was in the water with him a little bit, riding some waves, or catching some waves.
Who's a better surfer, you or Gannon?
Body surfer. I'm a better body surfer. He's too much body. He's a big boy.
So,
Rich was telling me that he really likes the Carson Wentz pick, and believes that he's got a bright future as a quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who like the Carson Wentz pick, and obviously Rich, by the way, was a very good quarterback, and really a late bloomer, late in his career. Once he left Minnesota and obviously became an NFL MVP in Oakland, so he knows a lot about the position, and I don't think there's any question, guys. Carson Wentz has everything you need physically, so it all becomes the other stuff, the intangibles. And one of the reasons the Eagles liked him so much and bent over backwards to try to move up twice to get him is the fact that everything points towards success when you look at the intangibles, the work ethic, the kind of guy he is off the field, the fact that he's just about football and not much else. You talk about these gym rat type quarterbacks that have had so much success over the years. He sort of shapes up as one of those. So I think that's some of the reasons why the Eagles feel so highly about him.
John McMullen in studio Monday with 4 hours of NFL. We'll do NFC East, we'll do Eagles, we'll do full NFL. That should be fun, and who knows, maybe even the Sixers will come up.
That'll be a background jacket.
All right, pal.
Finally, there's some positivity for the Sixers.
Yeah, there we go. All right, John, take care, pal.
Thanks, guys.